Wow, amazingly beautiful voices there. Aga Khan, Voices for Change, uplifting our spirits this morning. Of course, we'll continue enjoying that music as we go along on Power Breakfast. Now we continue with our news review right here with my panelists, Daisy Nyongesa, Senator, Irungu Kangata, MP for Kiharu, and Francis Waitito, Member of Parliament for Juja constituency. Let's now take a look at what happened yesterday. Both houses of Parliament adjourned, talking about both the Senate and the National Assembly, and we're very privileged to have members from both houses. And how is it feeling now that your work is done? Let's start with you, Senator. It was your first term in Parliament. Yes, I know you're technically still a member of Parliament up until midnight on the 7th of August, just before the elections. But it's as good as done. It is as good as done in terms of your legislative agenda. You're not hoping to go back to the House unless in case of emergency.
Actually stayed in Parliament up to the last minute, past 8 p.m. It has been a good experience for me. Being the youngest member of Parliament of the 11th Parliament, I joined Parliament at about 24 years of age.
So you can actually calculate her age.
And counting the amount of work we have been able to do, especially as the first or the second Senate, I believe I have done my best. As a Senate, we have done our best by defending and making sure that devolution works in this country, and being able to ensure that the revenue allocation that goes to the county government has increased from the financial year of 2013 to date. And therefore, there are many milestones we have been able to do. As a Senate, we've been able to pass several bills affecting counties, and I believe we have set a base. We have set a good foundation for the next Senate, and according to me, I don't think if we shall ever have a good Senate like the one we have had. It has been a good experience. Being a young person in the Senate, being presumed to be a house of the elderly, it has been a good experience. I've learned a lot, and I believe I'm going to use that to pursue my future career. Yes, as a politician.
You must be quite sad because you're not seeking to go back to Parliament after the elections. This is it for you. You will pursue other things.
I have my interests that maybe I may not make them public as per now, but I believe I'll still be holding a political position going forward, and I will still serve this country at whichever capacity. As much as we say degrees should not be a thing, but I'm happy that at least I have papers and I can fit to serve this country anywhere.
Okay, at least you have quite a number of years to still serve this country. Irungu Kangata, even for you, it's goodbye of sorts, because now you're not seeking to go back to the National Assembly. You're going to the upper house, or Nyumba ya Wazee as they call it. What's the feeling like?
Well, positive, but also there was also some challenges. I think the best part of it has been serving Wananchi using CDF. I think CDF is a very important fund. In fact, I would urge the government to consider enhancing that fund and expanding it, in the sense that I have seen instances where we have been able to change people's lives using CDF. For instance, I know of so many villages that did not have water in Kiharu. Now they do have water. I am also happy that there are some roads which were not existing, they were not paved. I have been able to lobby as a member of Parliament. And this was also incidentally your first time? Yes, your first time in Parliament. It was, yeah. So I'm happy that now I can go to Kiharu and see about 4 roads being paved within 4 years. I feel very satisfied. I know even if the day I'll be leaving from politics, the day I will be saying goodbye to politics, I think my legacy will have been entrenched by the action that I did for those 4 years. Well, in terms of legislation and the representation in the National Assembly, I'm proud that I have done my comrades, those of us who were in the universities, particularly those of us who went through the regular program, some justice. I made an effort to amend the Higher Education Loans Board Act to to send more money to the regular students who come from poor background but they are bright. I know several sections of that proposal were vetoed by the president, but I know one proposal went through. So to that extent, I'm also happy.
So university students will get to receive more money through HELB?
No, it was vetoed. That part was vetoed by the president, but it is no requirement that HELB must notify a student the fate of his or her application, whether it is successful or not. That is the only article that went through, and I'm happy for that. I'm somehow, there are challenges in terms of your right to privacy as a member of parliament. So at times you find a situation where you don't get enough time to spend with your family. Maybe that's something, I don't know how we members of parliament we can address that. but I think it is what we call occupational hazards, isn't it? I think each and every profession has an element of some sacrifice that you are doing, what economists call opportunity cost. So I think that has been a key opportunity cost. But also in terms of interaction, it gives you an opportunity to interact with some people most likely you never have come across. In particular, when you go to some travels, you're able to meet some people and to see areas probably you couldn't have been there. But maybe my final parting shot is that one, I would urge the next parliament to seriously consider increasing CDF money. To me that has been a very, you see, we only allocate CDF about 35 billion. When you compare that with about 300 and something billion allocated to counties, at times you see as if CDF tends to have a lot of impact. And therefore, from my own experience, if the kind of impact I see CDF having, whereas it's a very small fund vis-a-vis the entire budget, to me it's time for us to consider expanding that fund.
It's also your first term?
Yeah, it's my first term. I've been a politician, but also a farmer. But actually yesterday was a good day in Parliament because I was there till the last few minutes after 9. And
I understand quite a number of people are reluctant to leave the chamber.
You find that quorum is a problem because of the election mood. But yesterday they were there, and being a pure presidential government, I was very happy to hear people talking yesterday and wishing other people well. But just like he has said, you know, in this pure presidential system, you have a committee that is from both sides, and we work closely very well. Only when you hear there is a tug of war when people are looking for bonga points, you know, from your party. But after that, in the committees, we do quite a beautiful job. I'm in the Committee of Agriculture, and we have done quite well. You've seen that it's about 180 bills that we have passed in that parliament.
That's a record.
Yeah, that's a record.
108 bills.
8 bills, and so many other things that we have done together. The committees have been visiting places for them to catch up with the country. And that is why I like this 11th parliament, because people were seriously working. Apart from the chambers, the committee was more. As the lawyer here, we were doing more work in the committees more than in the chambers, and I like the way people really came out. But just like he has said, you know, CDF was not supposed to be there. But if you look at what people have done, I visited Kisumu. Jakoyo Midiwa is my very good friend, very good friend, because I can talk Luo, Luya. You know, Juja is cosmopolitan, and most of them are my friends, and we visit each other. They also come to Juja, and we stay apart from now Siasa. But if you look at what has happened on CDF, actually I was #1 in central Kenya on CDF and #9 in the country out of the 300 plus members of parliament. Why? Because I live in Juja. You get there, one ward didn't have even a secondary school. But because I live there, I manage, I always tell them I'm your manager when I'm in Juja constituency. But when I go to the chambers, then I become a mheshimiwa. But down here, I'm
So
a manager.
you feel CDF has really worked?
It has, because you go and sit, you have cells of groups of people. And now Juja is more united than before, because there were tribal lines, you know, the Luya, whatever councils, the Luo. But I told them, no, we must stay together. And even during my term, 4 years, they have intermarried. Because I told them, we are all Kenyans, yeah. You know, don't talk about I have to go to Western to get married or what.
You don't have to go far.
Just within.
But back to Parliament, there have been challenges. There have been numerous challenges, especially in the working relationship between the Senate and the National Assembly. And that's why even the issue about the revenue allocation to counties.
That is what I wanted to just to mention that. Just to mention that, yes. We've been going wrong because of Senate and the National Assembly. Because I've always watched that. Because Senate and National Assembly, each house wants to show that they are powerful than the other house. But they should work together for the sake of Kenyans. We have never been having these joint committees that I always talk about, and they're in the Constitution. You know, Senate will say we are upper house, and National Assembly will say now we are the upper house. This is what we don't want to see in the next Parliament. Yeah, but when we go back to that.
From the Senate's perspective, what has been the issue? Because about 30 bills that emanated from the Senate just sitting at the National Assembly, not being attended to, and probably they will never be attended to, because now the life of Parliament here is as good as done. The 11th Parliament.
It's true we have had challenges, and it is because of the sibling rivalry. And we have had a good number of bills, but unfortunately, any time a bill comes from the Senate to the National Assembly, I'm sorry to say that it has been left lying somewhere in the office. Yet all the bills that came from the National Assembly to the Senate, as a Senate we were able to deal with them, we were able to debate, we were even able to pass the bills. But we have had that challenge, and I believe that the members in the National Assembly have just come to realize that Senate and National Assembly, we are both parliaments, and we are supposed to work for the interest of our country, for the interest of the people we represent. I may not wish to say this, but I believe we had some people who did not want devolution to work, and those people are seated in the National Assembly. So they made, and they're in the leadership. So they made sure that the Senate does not do its work, so that people, the Kenyans, can say we don't need the Senate. But for devolution to work, we really need the upper house, as it's called in other countries. In Kenya, it's just the other house. I don't know who tailored that in the Constitution, but I think it was supposed to be made clear that Senate is the upper house. Senate deals with matters affecting counties, and there is no bill that affects people that does not deal with the people of the counties. Because even a constituency award sits in a county. And therefore I know in the future, these are the first 5 years we are trying to experience how it works. I believe in the next Parliament we are going to have a good working relationship, so that our people are able to benefit from the system.
But that relationship is still not guaranteed, and one of the headlines, and this is on page 9 of the Daily Nation, what happened to the counties, for the counties to get money, it had to take a mediation committee to actually strike a deal between both houses. Let me just read. Counties to get 302 billion shillings as MPs Senate strike deal. It had to be a deal. Counties will receive that amount in the next financial year after a committee set up to negotiate a compromise between the Senate and the National Assembly struck an agreement. The mediation committee's decision means a potentially crippling cash crunch in the counties because of lack of agreement between the two houses will be avoided. That means we're actually staring at a crisis until a mediation committee came through. Now at least that particular matter has been handled. Counties will receive 302 billion shillings. Initially, let me just go back to the genesis of this problem. The deadlock occurred because neither house was willing to cede ground, with an earlier version of the bill collapsing after the mediation committee failed to agree. The Senate had wanted counties allocated an equitable share of 314 billion, while the National Assembly had approved 291 That's about close to 23 billion less. Yeah. Treasury had initially proposed 299 billion, while the Commission on Revenue Allocation had proposed 309 billion. Wow. But eventually they got a deal. Now, when Irungu Kangata, you're seeking to move from the National Assembly to the Senate. Something that baffles many people because of the kind of even leverage that the Senate seems to have in Parliament. It appears like it's a weaker house. Do you hope that this will ever change? Yes, according to Senator Daisy here, she says yes, the Senate should have been the upper house. That was the intention of the drafters of the Constitution. But in actual sense, it does not look like so. So why would you even seek to move from the National Assembly, which was really powerful?
Yeah,
well, several reasons. Number one, power is not textual at times. At times you can cloak power based on how you leverage on the kind of power that you have been given through a text, that is whether the Constitution or even a statute. So therefore, the problem with the Senate is the caliber of the senators that we have had. From where?
Yes, some of the best debaters we see are actually in the Senate, not even the National Assembly.
Well, it has nothing to do with the debate. It has everything to do with strategy. How do you increase the clout and the power of the Senate, taking into account the kind of legal mandate you have been given by the Constitution? There are ways which one can do that. Number one, Senate tended to be quite antagonistic to the national government, to the executive. So that you tended to see even the executive was not very happy to push its agenda through Senate. It tended to prefer a situation where everything is being channeled through the National Assembly, where they have requisite numbers to ensure the agenda goes through. But senators, including those who came from Jubilee, tended somehow to have what we call a separate identity, so that you would find matters of the government being killed at the Senate, notwithstanding the government having a majority in the Senate. And therefore, it meant then senators could not appropriate power. Again, even politically, for instance, when a president visits a certain county, you'll only find one senator, maybe the senator of that area, but the other senators are not there. So therefore, even in the mind of the president or even his deputy, they couldn't give Senate any clout, because it's like a house that is quite antagonizing the executive, and you know the executive is where real power reposts.
But do we foresee a situation where this will change, and what will actually trigger that change? Because some saying it would require a change in the law, which is too tedious.
No. Look here, for instance, I strongly believe the kind of powers that are provided for in the Constitution, if you have more strategic senators seated there, most likely they can be able to appropriate more power. So let me give you a good example.
So they should work more with the executive for Senate to perform better. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that can be number one. Yes, I can tell you that can. Let me tell you. Let me give you a good example. One, they have been agitating for what we call some oversight funds, right? And if they were to get that funds, maybe they can do the oversight and representation work in a better manner. But how can you obtain that funds without the concurrence of the executive? If the National Treasury is not in your side, how can you get that funds?
But do you think that
no? No. It's about strategy. So if you think you are going to get best result by being antagonistic,
but do you agree with him?
If you are going to,
I'm not agreeing with him.
Look here. How many Jubilee members do you have in excess of NASA in the Senate? It's about 2, isn't it? One, isn't it? Just one. So meaning, even the executive is usually very fearful of the Senate, because meaning if that one senator switches.
Are you therefore saying that if at all the other side or the minority
I propose this way, number one,
is not the same party that the government?
You know what he's saying?
I propose this way. Number one, I would pray that Jubilee has more senators, quite a bigger number of senators as compared to the current.
If they form government, if they don't form, if they have the majority in the Senate,
irrespective, the party that is going to win government ought to have more members in the Senate. By doing that, you will find a Senate that is somehow more amenable to the executive.
I'm not agreeing with him.
Yes.
Because even in the National Assembly, these are times when we vote against.
Yes.
And he's one of them. One time we voted against the situations in Parliament. But if you go to Senate, people thought that because of hurriedly thinking of the upper house, they thought that is the best place to go. Look at Senate. We have the best lawyers, even in the world, forgetting about even Kenya. Look at even the former Attorney General is there. Look at Kiraitu Murungi, the best lawyers you can call for. And you're also a lawyer. So when they thought of going to Senate, they have the powers, because this is nobody interferes with Senate. It is you, the senators, to come up with what you want. But now the Constitution doesn't allow you. And it gives more power to the National Assembly. And that is why you see every time Duale talking about it. Because he knows it's covered by the Constitution.
So it is the law that has actually...
Yes, tied them hands. Look at even now where they are going. Look at them. They are not going back to Senate. Some are going to be governors. Some want even to go down to be members of Parliament, where they think there is more power. That is the 20%.
Even one who wants to become an
But
MCA.
to me, whatever the senator is saying, she's very right. We need to change the Constitution and talk about the Senate being an upper house. Just like other...
For it to work, we need a change in the law.
In the Constitution.
Wow.
No,
And just to add on,
because before she does. Oh, wait, you
They are both senators.
I have listened to the incoming senator speak, and he needs to change his thinking and his perception about the Senate. That's what the National Assembly has been thinking about the Senate. But the good thing the Senate has been doing is that we have tried to be non-partisan for the good, for the interest of our country, and it has worked well. We have had, and that's why I said, we have had the best senators that maybe the future Senate houses will not be able to get the caliber of people we have been able to get. We have been able to come up with bills that needed support here. You have just seen the allocation, the revenue allocation to the counties. The National Assembly feels good that we are not given the oversight money so that we can be able to do our job well. We had to sacrifice so that counties can receive more money. And you have talked well of the CDF. I agree with you, it has changed lives, including in my own constituency, Likuyani. But look at it, the executive has some kitty. The devolution ministry has a lot of money. The counties are receiving some money. The members of parliament are receiving money. The best tool that will be done for the good again of our people is to consolidate all these funds and now look at the priorities. Our constitution allows for public participation. The Senate had come up with a bill on the county oversight committees, where the senator was supposed to be the chairperson, the governor was supposed to be the secretary, members of parliament and other stakeholders were to sit in that panel. And therefore, if we have such committees and this money has been consolidated into one kitty, we can still be able to represent our people effectively,
So
regardless of dividing the money.
So
the law is, in fact, CDF is unconstitutional, and we have allowed it. Even a lawyer here has allowed it to go through.
no, it is the national government CDF kitty now.
So,
it's not just a CDF kitty.
By the way, we have, I'm happy we are living as one country, Kenya, but we have 48 governments. The Senate, the county government, the 47 county governments do not need to kneel down on an executive arm of government for them to receive their rights. Is the responsibility of the National Treasury to make sure money trickles down to allow development.
Do you agree with Bwana Waitito that probably it requires a change in law for the Senate to actually have that kind of influence?
I agree with him, and I believe it will happen later. We are not saying that it should be done immediately, but I know
it will necessitate a change.
Yes, once we get to that level, the country and the leadership will be able to appreciate. And I know silently the president, where he is, he knows very well that this was a great Senate, because they have tried to kill the Senate. Members of Parliament, National Assembly have tried to suppress us, but we have come out.
But if I ask Madam Senator,
can I comment one point? there are other methods of ensuring that you keep engaged without necessarily requiring change of law. A good example is that in every county assembly, they usually reserve a certain seat that is reserved either for the governor or for the senators. Rarely will you find any senator or even a governor going there to sit and hear the deliberation of respective assemblies. So to me, I'm of the view, if you have the right senators there, they'll be going to each and every county assembly. So they listen in there.
According to you, the problem is the individuals, the persons, not the law.
Yes.
Anyway, let's take a break now. When we return, we'll discuss the biggest headline, and I'll give you a chance as well. We'll discuss the biggest headline, and that's a deadlock with regard to the procurement of ballot papers. That when Power Breakfast returns.